All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Going to be getting into the top props today on Wednesday. So yesterday, the tacos went 1 for 3, and really, it did feel like the WNBA prop was a little bit of a trap. I kind of hope that we're just done with those. And I say it was kind of a bit of a trap because they gave us this weird combo prop, which they are only giving us because they are harder to predict. They want these to be exactly 50-50. That's why they tossed in the Diwana prop, because she was heavily favored to get her under points. It was a weird one, a weird line that we had. The projection data liked the over, but it was like a 54% chance for her to get the under. And so it was just annoying that they paired those two together, right? Then the MLB pitcher prop that missed, also heavily favored to get their under on their original line, 5.5. They've been doing that a lot recently. They've been kind of trying to sneak in those good values. Yes, all in all, they are still good values, and we know in the long term it's going to be successful. But with the tacos going 1 for 3, this might be the first potential week of losing since I've started the videos, since I started tracking the results each week. And that goes back to 1-28. So we'll see. Trying to come back. Ended up losing 9 units total yesterday, which puts us at a loss of 8 on the week. It's kind of, I don't know, it's refreshing in a way because it's like a challenge now. So trying to battle it back, get into the profit for the week. I don't know, it's a weird thing. It gets kind of repetitive sometimes. So I'm kind of excited to try to build that back for the week. And so let's try to do that right now. Now, I do just want to point out 2 bets that I already made this morning. I've already been bumped. We got Copper here for Chicago, bumped up to 16. This was like a 56% chance to hit. I'll be very tilted if it doesn't. Might just have to quit the WNBA props if that doesn't hit. And then this Kyle Tucker one, and this is really why I'm pulling it up, because I do find it interesting that we are starting to see them bump the hitting fantasy score props throughout the day, as well as the pitching fantasy score props up throughout the day. That was something they weren't doing. They're slow to respond to those. And that's what created the big ad for hitting fantasy score props. We have seen them be a little bit tighter with these lines. Now, yes, we're still getting like Kyle Seager yesterday, the one 2 days ago that hit. So it's still hitting at the correct rate about 70% of the time for the top hitting fantasy score prop. We're just not getting as many elite hitting fantasy score props as we would like. Yeah, so this one got bumped up to 16. And let's look at Tucker. Wow, they actually now have taken off his hitting fantasy score prop. It went from 7 to 7.5, and now they have just taken it off today. Interesting there. But let's just go ahead and start out with some WNBA props here. Looking at right now, we have a couple that are favored. We got Sykes for over 4.5 rebounds, about a 54% chance for that one to hit, projected to get 5.8. And then we got Parker as well for over 6.5 rebounds, projected to get 8.5, 54% chance for that one to hit. So 2 pretty good props right there. And I will say, just as a FYI here, the projection data is typically a little bit higher than the Vegas data. Just as an FYI, that just goes to the consistency with data points. It doesn't really matter to me where said projections come from for you guys. What I want to preach is just the consistency with those projections. Don't be going from source to source to source, because all in all, projection data is being pulled in some fashion that's supposed to lead to predictability. It's when you differ with the projections and just everything really when it comes to betting, when you have that lack of consistency is when you start to see flaws in your game, flaws in the projections, I guess. So just want to call that out. Typically they are a little bit higher. Okay. And so just looking at right now, we do have a couple of under bets we could go with as well. Is her name really Jordan Canada? That's kind of cool. 55% chance for her to get the under, but once again, the points are going to be favoring the over there as well. Going to be the same thing with points and assists. And then we got Natasha Cloud. I mean, Canada and Cloud right now, I'm in the Midwest, and the Canadian wildfires are brutal right now. Interesting that they're both popping up as the under. But I mean, that's really it. Nothing that I love too much WNBA wise. Maybe just putting those strong bets that we have out there, but those could be gone by the time this video is up. So let's go ahead and get into some MLB based props. All right, so yesterday we had a pitching prop in Clayton Kershaw that was one that we had to make. It was too favorable, but man, he almost did not get there. He only had 2 strikeouts, pitched a gem of a game, but almost did not get his over fantasy score. That would have been brutal. That would have been a very bad beat if he had not gotten his over with how well he had pitched. But he did. Today, we're not getting that many good pitching fantasy score props. Domingo German's the only one that casually is popping up, but his projection data is suggesting the under. So we probably don't want to be touching that. And then just looking at these other kind of under-based bets, I don't know why Blake Snell's Vegas line is pulling in that low. I'm guessing we just don't have the full data coming in on him just yet. So let's look at these other ones. We got Logan Gilbert. Vegas thinks he's going to struggle. You could bet the under there. We got Senga here as well. Could bet the under there. Those are probably two pretty good under bets for pitching fantasy score props. Once again, like the unders favored heavily in that one as well. This is probably my favorite one for the under. And you guys know I typically do not like to bet under bets, but this one's kind of popping up. Now let's go ahead and take a peek at the top hitting fantasy score prop. And so what I want to do real quick, let's take a peek at which games are expected to be higher scoring game totals. And this one between the Twins and Braves, for most of you guys, it's not going to be worthwhile to talk about it. So really the next best game would be Miami versus Boston, and then potentially the Guardians versus Royals, 9.5 over and under. So let's take a peek at which are the best hitting fantasy score props that we were getting. We got Juan Soto kind of popping up in there. The projection data likes him a lot more than does the Vegas line, but I do want to call out Vegas is favoring the over of 8.63 fantasy points. So yes, he's projected to get over his PrizePicks line by 1.13, which is great. That's awesome. But they are favoring the over of that as well. So do keep that in mind. A pretty decent prop there. Luis here, another kind of decent one, heavily favored for the under, and that's going to be the case with these next three. But the Vegas line is favoring the over as well. So decent one here. We got Ty as well. Ty France seems to be undervalued there. And then really the next two best ones, or next few best ones, would be Diaz here. I mean, these are all kind of good. Like, they're not great. They're not over by 2, which is what I want. I want to meet that threshold each time. This is the closest one to that, Ty France. But they're all just good. They're not great. So let's go and take a peek at some other pitching fantasy score props that we have. All right, so are we getting any other good kind of MLB-based props that we can be on? We got Stanton for over hits, runs, RBIs, projecting at 2, whereas the Vegas line is pulling in 1.5, about a 53% chance for that one to hit. That's all right. This one, Suarez here, this is a big difference here. So the average Vegas line is giving it about a 52.5% chance, which obviously we'd want it to be higher. But look at the projection difference. This is pretty crazy. Typically, we don't see this. We see more of a consistency there. So I don't mind this one. Just from what I've noticed, when the projection data is this much higher than the Vegas line, it does hit a little bit more than this percent. It's not much, but that stuff all adds up in the long term. It might be 1 or 2 more percent higher. So if you want it, let's just say it probably has about a 54% chance to hit rather than a 52.5% chance to hit. Not huge, but once again, that goes back to that kind of consistency that I was just talking about. If you're pulling the data from same data points, projection-wise, it's going to lead to some consistency. And I am curious, are we getting any situations in which PrizePicks and Underdog are kind of disagreeing? And here we are. 2 pitching score or 2 pitcher strikeout props. We got JP Sears here, where PrizePicks has already bumped it down to 5.5 or to 5 from 5.5, whereas Underdog is still giving us that one. If you guys want to roll with that, you certainly could. And we also have this one, Giolito as well. PrizePicks has already bumped it down. So if you want to bet the under for these on Underdog, that's not a terrible approach. And then for what it's worth, let's just see if we are getting any good Underdog bets. Some okay ones, a lot of the WNBA props. And I might just start betting the unders on WNBA. So I might just run out these 2 here for Cloud in Canada. Sorry, let's go ahead and get into the bet of the day. So just as an FYI, I typically do like to do props that are going to be available throughout the day so that this video provides value to everyone up until lineup lock. That's why I don't typically like to highlight EV bets, especially if I think they're going to be gone by the time a majority of people get to watch this. So looking at right now, we do have some okay props. I keep kind of having to say this. I wish we were getting better ones, and I am probably going to run out a lot of hitting fantasy score props because they're all pretty strong, just not as elite as I would love, but they're all pretty good. Okay, so if you guys want to, you can go back and rewind to those ones that are popping up and make your best educated decision with that. Okay, but that's gonna be it for this video. Let's have a good slate today. Let's bounce back from the taco disaster. All right, let's have a good slate as always. Let's keep cashing.